We begin tonight with new details on how police identified the boy in the box.
Joseph Augustus Zarelli will no longer be that boy in the box and will no longer be unknown.
The year 1957 marked the beginning of a mystery that would haunt the streets of Philadelphia and captivate the nation for over 6 decades. On February 25th, the lifeless body of a young boy, his age guessed to be between 3 and 7 years old, was found in a cardboard box in the woods near a stretch of road. His body showed signs of severe abuse, malnutrition, and neglect, leading authorities to suspect foul play. Despite extensive investigation and a composite sketch that circulated widely, the child's identity remained a haunting unknown, and the case became one of the most enduring unsolved mysteries in American criminal history.
This was the most challenging case of my whole career.
The boy was initially dubbed the boy in the box, and for 65 long years, that name would be the only clue investigators had in their search for the truth. Despite all efforts, the case was shrouded in mystery until an unexpected breakthrough came, offering the final piece of the puzzle. In 2022, with the help of modern forensic science, DNA technology, and a determined team of investigators, the case was finally solved. The boy's name was Joseph Augustus Zarelli. How did this breakthrough come to be, and what was the key clue that ended the 65-year mystery? The unsolved case of the boy in the box. On that fateful day in February 1957, a man walking his dog near Susquehanna Road in Philadelphia stumbled upon a cardboard box discarded in the woods. As he approached, his discovery of the body of a young boy shocked him. The child's lifeless form was badly beaten, with his hair cut off and his body covered in bruises, indicating severe physical abuse. He was found naked, wrapped only in a blanket, showing clear signs of neglect. The immediate investigation revealed that the boy had likely been dead for several days before being abandoned in the woods. Despite being in a public area, there were no eyewitnesses, and no one had reported a missing child. The lack of immediate leads added to the eerie mystery surrounding his death. An autopsy was conducted, but it provided few answers. The boy had suffered extensive abuse, and his malnourished body indicated that he had been deprived of care for an extended period of time. However, there were no clear signs of how he had come to be in this condition, and crucially, no concrete evidence pointed to a specific perpetrator. The lack of any personal belongings or identifying marks on the boy left investigators with a haunting set of questions. Who was this child? Why was he so brutally harmed? And who was responsible for such cruelty? As the investigation progressed, the case grew colder by the day. Despite public appeals, composite sketches, and media coverage, no one came forward to identify the boy or offer useful information. His tragic image, often referred to as the boy in the box, became a symbol of an unsolved mystery that haunted not only Philadelphia, but the entire nation.
It's just bittersweet, as my dad passed 6 weeks before they identified the boy, and this would mean the world to him.
The search for the boy's identity continued for years, but as time passed, the investigation seemed to hit a standstill. It wasn't until the early 2000s that new technologies, particularly forensic DNA analysis, would breathe new life into the investigation, ultimately leading to the breakthrough that would solve the mystery of Joseph Augustus Zarelli's identity.
Combining the DNA technology.
65 years after his death. In the years following the discovery, authorities launched a series of investigations, but nothing brought them closer to identifying the boy. Every lead, every tip, every attempt to unravel the mystery proved fruitless. The boy's image was circulated in newspapers, on television, and even on milk cartons, but no one came forward to claim him. For years, the case seemed to stall, becoming one of the most puzzling and tragic mysteries of the 20th century. As the years passed, the case became a part of local folklore, with various theories and rumors surrounding the boy's identity. Some speculated that the child was a victim of human trafficking, or that he had been abandoned by his parents. Others believed that the boy had been part of a broken family, caught in a cycle of abuse. No matter the theory, the truth remained elusive, and the mystery continued to weigh heavily on the hearts of those who sought justice for the young child.
Been a mystery for 65 long years, ever since his body was discovered in a cardboard box.
The last clue, forensic breakthrough. The case of Joseph Augustus Zarelli once a nameless victim found in a cardboard box in 1957, remained unsolved for over 6 decades, becoming one of Philadelphia's most haunting mysteries. The boy's identity was unknown, and no one came forward to claim him. His tragic death, marked by severe abuse and neglect, was a cold case that seemed to fade into history. Yet, in 2019, a groundbreaking decision was made by the Philadelphia Police Department. After years of stagnation, they would reopen the case using modern forensic techniques. This decision would ultimately lead to the unraveling of a mystery that had baffled authorities for over 60 years. At the heart of the investigation's revival was the emerging technology of genetic genealogy. This technique had already proven successful in a variety of cold cases, helping investigators solve crimes by matching DNA from crime scenes with family members who had submitted DNA to consumer ancestry databases. In 2019, forensic investigators took DNA samples from Joseph's remains and sent them to a genetic genealogy lab, hoping to find a lead. However, this was no easy task. The passage of time had taken its toll, and the DNA sample was degraded due to decades of decomposition. Still, the investigators persisted, determined to find answers, and they were not deterred by the challenging conditions. By 2021, their efforts paid off. A match was found in a public ancestry database. A distant relative of the boy had submitted their DNA to one of the commercial genealogy services. This match became the key that unlocked the door to the boy's identity. The team followed the genetic trail through several family branches, eventually narrowing it down to the boy's immediate family. The breakthrough revealed that the boy's real name was Joseph Augustus Zarelli.
To give America's formerly unknown child, Joseph Augustus Zarelli.
He was the son of a previously unknown family from the Philadelphia area, and his tragic fate had finally been uncovered after 65 years of uncertainty. The final clue, which solved the mystery and brought justice to Joseph, was the DNA match. It connected relatives who had no idea they were linked to a long unsolved case, bringing the truth to light. This breakthrough was made possible by the vast network of genetic data available through public DNA databases, marking a pivotal moment in forensic science. It highlighted how modern advancements in technology, particularly genetic genealogy, can transform cold cases and provide closure where traditional methods have failed. The use of genetic genealogy in Joseph's case represents a turning point in criminal investigations. It demonstrates the potential of these tools to solve cases that once seemed impossible. With the help of these cutting-edge techniques, investigators were able to piece together the puzzle of Joseph's life and death, restoring his identity and providing answers that had long been denied. Joseph Augustus Zarelli, the boy who had once been a forgotten victim, now had a name and a story, and his family's long search for closure was finally over. Joseph's case is also a testament to the relentless dedication of investigators who, despite the challenges of time and limited resources, never gave up on solving this haunting mystery. It underscores the importance of using every available tool, no matter how modern or innovative, to seek justice for the victims and their families. For 65 years, Joseph's identity had been a ghost, but with the last clue, a single DNA match, the investigation finally brought his story out of the shadows and into the light. A heartbreaking story, Joseph's family and the circumstances. The revelation of Joseph Augustus Zarelli's identity was a long-awaited moment for investigators, but it also brought with it a heartbreaking reality. The boy's parents, who had been previously unknown to authorities, had suffered tragic circumstances. Joseph's mother, who had been involved in the case from the very beginning, was found to have had a troubled history. She had struggled with addiction, and her personal life had been marked by violence and instability. She had been part of a family in turmoil, and at the time of Joseph's birth, she was living in difficult circumstances. The details surrounding Joseph Augustus Zarelli's early life remain largely unclear, though investigators believe he was born into a family deeply marked by poverty, neglect, and abuse. His mother, whose personal struggles with addiction and a turbulent lifestyle were well documented, seemed unable or unwilling to provide proper care for her child. Authorities suspect that Joseph's life was fraught with deprivation and hardship, and that his mother's neglect played a critical role in the circumstances leading to his tragic death. For years, the identity of Joseph's father remained elusive, further complicating the investigation. However, modern DNA technology eventually helped trace his lineage, ultimately identifying his father. Despite his identification, it became clear through the investigation that Joseph's father was likely not involved in the abuse or abandonment that led to his son's demise. The evidence pointed to Joseph's mother as the primary source of neglect and possible abuse, but the full scope of her role in his tragic death remains a matter of speculation. It was a combination of her inability to care for him and an unsafe home environment that ultimately led to the devastating fate of the young boy. While the full truth of Joseph's early life and the circumstances that led to his abandonment are still not entirely known, what is clear is that he was a victim of a broken system and a family in crisis. His death serves as a painful reminder of the vulnerabilities children face when they are born into neglectful or abusive situations, and the long-lasting impact of a fractured family environment. His tragic story continues to raise important questions about child protection and the responsibility of communities to safeguard the welfare of vulnerable children. The emotional impact of the breakthrough, the identification of Joseph Augustus Zarelli, and the closure of his case carried a profound emotional weight, not just for the investigators, but also for the public. For decades, Joseph's image, though nameless, had become ingrained in the collective memory of many. The tragic image of the boy, abandoned and mistreated, had haunted authorities, the community, and even the general public who followed the case. His face, often shown in news outlets and crime broadcasts, symbolized a mystery that seemed unsolvable for so long. But when genetic genealogy finally provided the breakthrough and revealed his identity, it brought both triumph and sorrow. For the detectives and forensic experts who had dedicated years to solving the case, the breakthrough was a hard-earned victory, a moment of immense relief. The case had weighed heavily on them. They had invested countless hours, combing through decades of records, re-examining evidence, and working tirelessly to give Joseph the identity and justice he deserved. This identification wasn't just the resolution of a mystery. It was the culmination of their persistence, their belief that even the coldest cases could still be solved with enough dedication and the right tools. But this success was also bittersweet.
Some sense of joy, relief, a little bit of sorrow mixed in there because our father's not here.
While they had solved the case, the horror of the child's suffering and the haunting truth of his neglect and abuse could never be erased. For the public, the revelation of Joseph's true identity brought a similar mixture of relief and sorrow. On one hand, they finally knew his name, Joseph Augustus Zarelli.
Police Commissioner Daniel outlawed today recognizing the decades-long effort to identify the boy we now know as Joseph Augustus Zarelli.
He was no longer just the boy in the box. The community, which had spent years grappling with the unknown, could now put a name to the face that had been left on the periphery of a cold case. The tragedy of his death, however, and the painful details of his neglect and abuse were still difficult to fully comprehend. The case was solved, but the implications of what had happened to him and the questions about the family and circumstances that led to his death lingered long after the forensic breakthrough. Joseph's case is emblematic of the importance of continuing efforts to solve cold cases. Modern forensic science, especially advancements in genetic genealogy, has revolutionized criminal investigations. For years, Joseph's case had seemed unsolvable, a tragic mystery destined to remain unresolved. But with new techniques, investigators can now solve cases that were once thought hopeless. The same methods that led to Joseph's identification can now be applied to other long-forgotten cases, giving hope that more lost names and stories will be uncovered in the future. Beyond the realm of criminal investigation, Joseph's case also drew attention to the importance of child welfare. His story sparked renewed calls for better protection of vulnerable children, bringing a focus on the need for increased resources and support for families in crisis. Joseph's tragic life and death became a call to action for stronger child protection services. His story highlights the pressing need to address neglect and abuse, ensuring that no child is left in such circumstances. Joseph's case is a reminder of the complexities of both law enforcement and societal responsibility. While technology can solve the mysteries of the past, it is also up to society to ensure that tragedies like Joseph's never happen again. His story continues to inspire the work being done to protect children today, pushing the conversation about child welfare into the forefront of public consciousness. A final reflection and call to action. The case of Joseph Augustus Zarelli is a heartbreaking and haunting tale that underscores the enduring tragedy of loss, abuse, and the power of perseverance. For 65 long years, Joseph's identity remained a mystery. His tragic death was a cold case that not only devastated those who investigated it, but also left the public yearning for answers. The case of the boy in the box, as he was known for decades, captivated generations of people, yet it remained unsolved, the boy's name and story left untold. But in 2022, after years of silence, the mystery was finally unraveled, thanks to modern forensic technology and a dedicated team of investigators who refused to give up on the case. Through the use of DNA analysis and genetic genealogy, Joseph's true identity was revealed, and his name was restored to the world. This remarkable breakthrough serves as a poignant reminder of the power of perseverance.
New forensic genealogy technology finally led them to the answers so many sought.
Joseph's case was one of countless cold cases that were shelved, forgotten, and seemingly unsolvable. But advancements in forensic science, particularly in the realm of genetic genealogy, have revolutionized the way law enforcement approaches criminal investigations. Joseph's case was one of the first to benefit from this groundbreaking technology, which allowed investigators to use DNA samples from his remains to connect with distant relatives and ultimately trace his lineage back to his family. Through this technology, what once seemed hopeless was transformed into a triumph of science and determination. Forensic genealogy has allowed investigators to solve cases that were previously deemed impossible. It has provided answers in cases where physical evidence and traditional investigative methods had failed. Joseph's case highlights the critical role of these innovations in solving old mysteries, and it reminds us that justice, even after decades of silence, is still possible. The long years of uncertainty and grief experienced by Joseph's family were finally answered, and the boy who was once a nameless ghost in a cardboard box now had a name, a family, and a story. Yet beyond the technical triumphs of solving the case, Joseph's story also serves as a stark reminder of the larger issue of child welfare. His tragic death points to the harsh realities of abuse, neglect, and the dire circumstances many children face in their homes. Though his case has been solved, countless others remain, with children suffering in silence. The case of Joseph Zarelli should inspire society to remain vigilant in the fight against child abuse and to continually seek justice for the most vulnerable. Joseph's story also urges us to never give up on cold cases. The road to justice is often long, frustrating, and filled with setbacks. However, thanks to the tireless work of investigators, scientists, and advocates, many unsolved mysteries are now being brought into the light. Joseph's case represents not just the solving of a murder, but the restoration of dignity and the search for truth. If Joseph's story moved you and sparked your interest in more real-life mysteries and breakthroughs, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on the latest criminal cases, forensic science advancements, and other captivating stories that reflect the power of perseverance and the relentless pursuit of justice. Join us as we continue to explore the stories of the unsolved, the forgotten, and the overlooked, and watch as we bring these mysteries to the forefront. Thank you for being part of this journey and for supporting our efforts to uncover the truth. Together, we can ensure that the quest for justice never stops, no matter how long it takes.